All right, down here at the bottom left, a new member of FXOpen. It's actually his second televised match in the GSTL. He is...
FXOZ!
I like that, how he said that. Using the O part to pronounce it. And his opponent, down here at the bottom right, a member of the team StarTale. He is...
StarTale! Curious!
I was going to try to make a joke about Curious, but I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I always try to think of those as well, and it just doesn't come out.
Twilight actually beat Fruit Dealer in the Team League. It was last season, I believe. And
yeah.
The map was this very map, if I remember correctly. So that's something to note.
He's a lot stronger of a player than people realize. He didn't do, well, he didn't qualify for Code A like we were expecting him to, but he did do quite well.
Yeah, he actually lost to Classic Prime, a member of the Prime clan that we've been practicing with quite a bit in the team house. He's really, really strong. He's a guy that you guys should watch out for because he's quite strong as well. He's a Protoss, so whenever we want to practice against a Protoss, sometimes we call him up. The other Protosses are busy, and he loves to practice with FXO. And obviously, I know some of you guys are going, well, why would you practice with another team? It's the Team League. Well, you guys have to keep in mind that Prime is in a different side of the Team League, so we aren't going to see them for a long time until the playoffs, essentially, so you can practice with them.
Yeah, and the only way to get good practice is to be playing against other top players in the setting that you need to.
Exactly.
You need to choose the all the format and everything, and just try to figure out exactly how things are going to work out, because a team league is a lot different than an individual league.
Now, you may be wondering why Oz made that forge where he did, instead of walling off with it. A lot of the time, Oz likes to do that because he likes to be very annoying with cannons, almost like Huck does sometimes cannoning. If he can find an opening and cannon your base in this matchup, he will just do it. So he really, really loves to do that. And of course, if your opponent goes for pool first, it's a little bit easier to do than, or rather, if your opponent goes for hatch first, it's easier to do that. Sometimes you can do the 3 pylon wall on this map, and he was just doing it as kind of a way of saying, well, if I can get away with it and I cannon you, what are you going to do? So that's why he did that, rather than kind of making out in the open and leaving himself relatively open to counterattacks.
And he does drop that pylon to prevent the hatchery for a little while and force a specific build from the Zerg. He's very confident playing against this specific style, so it's very good for him to force that style from his opponent.
Yeah, and the other thing about making the forge there also is I talked to Twilight about this, Oz. We still call him Twilight sometimes because that's his old name. I talked to him about it a little bit, and essentially he thinks that if you make the cannon, or if you make the forge part of your wall in that wide open area, sometimes you can just lose if your opponent has good micro because it's a much wider area to wall, so he feels much more comfortable just using the cans out in the open like that and not making the forge part of his wall off.
And Oz was trying to hide a probe in the background of the third of Curious to sneak it in later, but Curious did scout that and did force it to run away.
Indeed. So that hatchery starting to finish up for Curious. Now, I'm curious to see what he's going to do next. You know, we did see him play as ZVZ just last game, but I don't know exactly what his style is going to be here in this matchup. And that probe, trying to get a little bit more information, unfortunately was taken out by that Zerling. Meanwhile, back at Oz's base, he has started a gateway. It's nearly finished. And he's got sort of a wall-off forming. It's on its way to becoming a wall-off, wants to grow up and be a solid wall-off. And
it's interesting for what we see right here is Curious is not going for a third in his normal spot. He's actually moving it out to the eastern side of the map. I don't know if that's going to be scouted quite quickly enough by Oz to be able to counter it.
Yep, and these Zerlings not really going to be able to run. I mean, they could try to run in there, but they'd be, of course, killed by the cannons. An interesting idea for Curious to take that base over there, as you guys just got a shot of. Something to note is I actually take a third base there a lot rather than taking the rocks one, because a lot of players just keep checking the rocks. So the rock's gone. Oh, if the rocks are gone, you're going to expand soon. Or, oh, if the rocks are gone, I need to keep checking because you're going to expand there soon. Or, I see you're breaking the rocks, maybe you're going to expand soon. But if you take it over there, first of all, you don't have to wait for the rocks to be dead, so Curious can do it now. He doesn't have to build up an army to kill the rocks. So that's one advantage. And of course, the other advantage is much less likely to be seen.
Yeah, and he just really needs to stay hidden for a little while. Once he gets the advantage of it being up for a few minutes, then he's really going to be set later on.
Exactly. Now, right now, Oz, of course, has his Nexus up. Now, his next move is going to be... It's going to be decided here in these next few moments. Right now, I'm thinking he's probably going to go for a 6-gate timing attack. He's really, really good at doing that. And if he gets even a hint that that third base is there, that's probably exactly what he's going to do. Although, unfortunately, Curious has those watchtowers covered with Zerglings. He's going to see any scout that tries to come and find it, so he should be fully prepared, even having that Overlord over there to check for another scout coming from a different direction. And Oz is going to have to make a decision here pretty soon as to what he wants to do.
And the Zergling is moving out on the map just to get a little bit of scouting to make sure the Protoss is doing exactly what is expected. A fourth hatchery going down. You do need that fourth hatchery to have the production once you do get your third base up as a Zerg player.
Indeed. Now, in Oz's base, he has gone up to 4 gates. Zergling's trying to scout up here a little bit. Zergling speed a little ways off, so Oz realizes this and pressures out. If your opponent doesn't have Zergling speed, you can almost do whatever you want. You can bully those Zerglings because they're just too slow to really punish you for it, especially when you have cannons up. Now, from here, there is a Roach Warren going up, and actually, what Curious, I think, is going to do is get a lair. As soon as that Roach Warren finishes, he's going to start making a few roaches. He's getting that drone count up to where it needs to be. He's got 50 drones. He's going to make about 10 more drones or so, and just start producing roaches to control the map.
And with those roaches, if there's no air units on the ground, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage. You're going to be able to push out and do really contain the Protoss player. He is moving.
Oh, this is a really unfortunate position for Oz. The Zergling speed just finished, and he had so many Zerglings out in the middle of the map. Oz in a really tough spot here, losing a lot of his very expensive sentries. Some good force fields to keep them alive, but still lost so many units in that little engagement. It was it ended up very badly for him.
Those were some beautiful force fields, though. Kept 3 of the sentries inside a group of 3 force fields, and the Zerglings could not get to them. Really interesting maneuver right there.
Yeah, so Oz does have 4 gates. He's added 2 more, but they're not going to be done for a while here. Just going to pressure forward with these units. He has added a Twilight Council. He's researching +1 weapons, but there's so many Zerglings here, and roaches are starting to pop out. 16 Zerglings on the way, and oh no, again! The sentry's not completely prepared, but does cause Curious to pull back. He's not quite sure about engaging just yet.
But here come the roaches. He is going to be able to push back now that he has the true meat of the Zerg army. He's going to be able to take down these forward pylons, prevent the reinforcements from coming. Hopefully he's going to be able to get a surround here and take out a lot of these sentries. Oh, he didn't quite take out the sentries, but he did dwindle down their energy, so they aren't going to be able to throw down as many force fields as he would like in this next engagement.
Yeah, he needs to warp in some Stalkers here. He's now gone up to 6 gateways. They should warp in a few Stalkers here to help defend against this aggression. Of course, the Roaches do not yet have speed. They don't have any upgrades at all. And those warp gates done now. Right now, Oz does have a probe that does see the 3rd expansion. So he's probably going to make a pylon over there and start getting aggressive.
And what's great about playing against the Zerg players, you can scout their creep to know where the expansions are. You don't actually have to let the Zerg player know that you do actually see what's going on. So he's going to be able to react to this properly. He's getting the blink upgrade for his Stalkers, and he's also getting a robotics facility.
Having that 3rd base up is basically what Zergs do nowadays. Of course, you see that macro hatchery there as well. When you have that 3rd base up and saturated, it's really easy to just pump units or pump drones accordingly. So he's just kind of controlling the map with these speedlings, trying to find out exactly what Oz is up to, and when he sees something, he just reacts to it using his great production capabilities and economy.
And he is going to force these scouting Zerglings away from his 3rd. He has not expanded quite yet. He's probably going to be going for a timing attack here, correct?
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's not necessarily going to be the case, but I think he's just going to continue to make sure that Oz cannot take another base. Now, here's a little bit of harassment coming out for Oz, sending a few Zealots up. There is a Spore Crawler there. Of course, Spore Crawler is not very useful against Zealots, and yeah, these Zealots are going to be spotted and taken out very quickly by Curious. He dealt with that really nicely. Good scouting information, always checking for things like that.
Yeah, that is a little unfortunate for Oz. He did send out the Zealots a little too soon, and they did get scouted from that Overlord, moving from the 3rd back to the main army of Curious.
And in the middle of the map, we're going to have a little engagement. He might be able to trap these roaches. They don't have speed yet. Does have quite a bit of sentry energy, but he doesn't, unfortunately, catch up to those roaches. He wanted to try to force the men to trap them. Didn't react quickly enough. He is moving another pylon forward, and Oz, he looked like he was thinking about taking a 3rd base, but he actually decided not to break those rocks. It looks like he may just want to end this game off of just 2 bases with 8 gateways. It's going to be relatively difficult to do so. Does have +1 weapons, +2 about to finish. He's going to try to hit this nice little timing here, but I don't know if he has enough units.
Yeah, Curious is 50 supply over Oz. It's going to be a difficult fight for him right here, but a lot of it is tied up in drones. Here goes the battle. The force field's going down, cutting off most of the roaches from the fight.
Yeah, some great force field. The Stalkers blinking back as well. The Zealots were kind of in a tough spot, but the Stalkers do blink back to allow them to get into the right spot, and actually, Oz doing really well in this fight, taking out a lot of those roaches. Of course, the roaches only have +1 carapace. They don't have any attack upgrades. All these overlords being taken out as well. And Oz actually crushing through, doing a lot of damage, warping in more stalkers. He's got so many gateways. He almost has unlimited production as long as he can afford it. Nice blink micro here. The roach count getting smaller and smaller, and a lot of these overlords will go down here pretty soon as well. And that is going to be bad news for Curious.
We do have a lot of Zerglings coming in, though. We might be able to force the army to back off a little bit, and then the production of the Zerg army might be able to defend, but it is looking pretty bad. A lot of these overlords are going down. He's going to be forced into the red, and now he is in the red. He's not going to be able to produce any more armies. Oh my god.
I cannot believe he's doing this, Torch. He killed so many of those overlords. 133 Manor Nexus outside of his base. There's so many stalkers here. He can warp in more if he needs to. And it looks like Curious is basically dead. He's trying to make as many zealots, or excuse me, as many roaches as he can. He just has to make overlords. He can't make anymore. And this is looking really bad for Curious. Some good blink micro from Oz here. He can warp in more stalkers. He's doing so now. Warping in about 5 stalkers at a time. And these stalkers just have better upgrades. The roaches didn't have speed when they needed to, and this is going to be it, I think, for StarTale Curious. And making another Manor Nexus outside of his base. And that's going to be it. He's just going to run in here to the main. He's just killing so many overlords, killing the units as they pop, and it's just not enough. Every unit coming out is just killed instantly. There are too many stalkers, and GG!
That was beautiful. He came into that fight with a supply deficit and was able to use excellent blink micro to be able to keep those stalkers alive.
It was all about the timing. I think he tricked Curious into thinking he was going to take a 3rd base, but then didn't. And a little celebration there by Oz coming out.
He's definitely meshing with his foreign team quite well. Oh, refusing it. Wow.
I think he's a little bit overwhelmed at the moment. Can't give everyone a high five. But
he knows he's a boss.
Yeah, I'd love to be over there sitting with the team. Guys, obviously you guys know I'm a player of FXO as well, but today I'm casting, and I've already talked, we've already worked everything out, and I could be called to play at any moment, but it's not really in the cards for today.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about a team league is you can train a player to be very good against one specific strategy. So in the situation, you can put out a player that on average isn't as strong as the rest of your players, but in that situation can help you get that extra win that could push you over the edge.
Exactly. Sup, son? That's one of FXO's catchphrases, and
is the first English thing you taught to Oz?
Yeah, it was one of the first things we told him, and he's loved it and has been saying it all the time, sometimes a little too much.
It's not too bad. Sup, son?
Sup, son?
I come in the house and he's just like, hi, Torch. Sup, son?
he does a little thing there. There's some other things that we've taught Oz to say.
I don't want to show them on camera today.
No, we're not going to talk about those, but maybe ask me on Twitter about it later. some funny stories I could tell you about Oz being taught words he didn't quite understand. There's some funny stories. But Oz actually has been helping my Korean as well. And we've got, of course, Mingyun, Slog. You guys may know him as Andy. And Oz, of course, Haksu, teaching me Korean. My Korean's pretty good, but it can always use improvement, so love to hearing from those guys, helping my pronunciation. So who's it going to be for StarTale?
Looks like Curious is getting yelled at by the coach, but that is going to be Squirtle coming out, one of their better Protoss players. He has had a lot of exposure in the foreign scene.
Yeah. Squirtle actually has played a lot in the team leagues as well, and that's something that Unstable and I were talking about when we were preparing for this lineup. Is we knew for sure that Squirtle would come out. Taking off the jacket. Maybe he's evolving. Look at his results. He's got a lot of them. Of course, playing in GSL Season 3, that's the open season, made it to the round 16 there, made it to the round 16 in Code A in January and March. Got knocked out in the round of 32, but requalified. Got knocked out in May, and I don't think he requalified this time. But
he did not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He is one of these consistent players that is just on the cusp of Code A, Code B. He does qualify frequently, but then he gets knocked out the first or second round, unfortunately.
He's a consistently good player, though.
Yep.
And those results don't always speak for everything. That's something that I really want to stress to you guys, that even if you don't see good results in the GSL from a player, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that those qualifiers are really hard.
Yep.
Code A is really hard. It's just getting harder and harder every time.
It's almost, the Code B qualifier is almost harder than the Code A tournament sometimes, and definitely harder than a lot of the foreign tournaments out there.
Yeah. So, talk a little bit about this matchup, PvP, Haksu, Oz. Oh, I take it back. We're going to have a 2-minute break. I'll talk about it when we get back. See you guys in just a minute.